Good evening, fellow Plexers. This video is another attempt to help Joseph figure out how to get a Plex movie library going with some documentary films. So, this is totally unscripted, unprepped, but through a support group thread on Facebook, he was having trouble adding this obscure documentary, which is only listed at IMDb and not TMDb. Now he's having trouble listing or scanning in this documentary, which is at TMDb, and I've just picked another random documentary to use with these three file names. Now these are dummy files. They're about 11 seconds of me saying test, test, 1, 2, 3, test, test. They're not real media files. They're just going to represent a real media file. But I want to talk about some things that can screw up scanning in Plex if you don't set your Plex library correctly. Plex should scan based on the folder and file name, but if you check some boxes, you could ignore that and scan based on local metadata. So there's a bunch of tools that every Plex user should be aware of, and one of them is Make MKV. So I'm going to right click on this first file and open it in, MKV Toolnix, not Make MKV. This basically shows you what's inside the container file. So inside this file, I have a video file. Inside this container, a video file, audio file, there could be a subtitle file, and something called tags. Well, if you click the output and you get your files off the internet, well, you could have some goofy name here. So let me do this. Let me take this first movie. Now, you're not going to see a proper name like that, but you are going to see a whereas name like this. With all kinds of gobbledygook after it. And if Plex is looking for this embedded metadata and not the sound of the movie, you may not scan properly. So you can fix it by injecting the right embedded metadata in it, but you really don't need to worry about it. This is just something that could be going wrong. But our settings in Plex later will correct for anything going wrong. So right now I'm just going to rename these dummy files to match these three documentaries. I don't have a year for this, I know it, and I'm removing the illegal character. And what do we have left? We have the original one that Joseph was having issues with, and again, that's only listed at IMDb, so that presents a problem of not having robust metadata. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a simple FileBot expression. So I'm going to open all three of these in FileBot. Well, actually I can't. Let's do this. I'll create a library folder for them because we'll create a new library in this Plex install that I'm going to use. Now I will open them in FileBot. Now I could use my own custom expressions. I've done this in many FileBot videos. It's not going to find the one that's only listed at IMDb, but it will find these and use my default expression that adds the TMDB number. So we'll go with this on these two because Joseph has already got the TMDB number for the sound of seeing. We'll validate. And now we'll go in and let's make these simpler and not have all my extra stuff in there. And we won't even leave the, well, we'll leave the TMDB number in the file too, because technically that's what Plex says to do if you're using the source ID. Okay, so that's just a kind of a dumbed down version. Now we need to find the IMDb number for this. So let me do that. You get IMDb open. Okay, I need to bring my scrap pad in here because I've installed this as a Chrome app. So let me copy the URL, paste it in here, and I'll get the TT number that way. You have to know a trick or two. All right, I'll copy just that.
1, 2, 3, test.
Oh, my mistake, I thought I was in the folder. Oh, I need to create the folder. That's what I need to do. Okay, so I am starting to cook with gas now. Okay, so we have our 3 test movies, test documentaries, and they're in its own folder. So let me bring in the web app. I've already changed to this test server on my older Synology NAS. And these are the libraries I have set up, but I'll create a new library so Joseph can see exactly what settings to pick. Add library, movie, we'll call it .test. I'll choose next. I'll browse for that folder, which I know I'm using Plex Media, my Plex Media as the alias to that shared folder. Movie libraries, movie test. And Joseph, if you see your actual movie folders here, you're doing good, you've got the right permissions. I will add those, and before I hit add library, I will go to advanced. Now you should be using Plex Movie and Plex Movie for the scanner and agent. Everything should be left default besides the collection option. So this option you can leave. Use local assets. When scanning this library, use local posters and artwork if present. You can leave this checked or uncheck it. You do not want to check prefer local metadata. You can leave find extras checked. I don't check any of these. I do change my minimum automatic collection size to 2. That way if a movie is listed in a collection at TMDB, the collection won't be created until you have at least 2 in the collection. Everything else can be left default. I'm going to add library. All right, you'll see Dear America, Letters Home from Vietnam scanned in properly. It's got all the metadata. Now, it may not have a lot of artwork as options, but it does here, and a couple backgrounds. So the sound of seeing doesn't have a lot of metadata. And it looks like there's not a lot to choose from for the poster. The only way to check that is to go to the movie database. With obscure media, I had it open off screen. With obscure media, there might not be a robust entry at the movie database. So even though that it didn't look like it was a good poster, that is the official poster. And I think that's part of Joseph's problem. He's trying to add some obscure media. User score 0%. This is a 13-minute long documentary. It might be listed someplace else as a TV show episode. So there's really not a lot of metadata to bring in because it's not robust. And let's do this. Let's bring in IMDb because that's an important thing to talk about. As I mentioned a lot in different videos, Plex scrapes both the TMDB and the IMDb daily and then combines the metadata into their own database they use for the scanner and agent. So our Plex servers never scrape TMDB or IMDb directly for our movie libraries, and Plex does the same thing with TMDB and TVDB for the TV show libraries. So Plex is doing the best it can because there's not robust metadata at these two sites, and Plex combines all this to bring in the metadata. So it's looking good for what we have. And we're not starting out with a lot, but if Joseph, if your scan of this movie looks exactly like mine does, it worked correctly. It worked as best as it could. There's only one picture here because that's probably all there is in the database because the other people involved with this project are obscure. So now if we go to this one, it looks like it didn't scan properly, but it did. There's simply no poster for it because there's no entry at the TMDB. There's only an entry at IMDb. And that's where this description came from. And that's where this information came from. So what you really need to do is you need to post some screenshots if you've gotten this far. And I don't know how far you've gotten. Simply saying it doesn't work is not informative in any way whatsoever. So before we go too far, let's check some other settings. Now, no one should ever go into the agent settings and change anything for any reason, and that's my firm belief. So let's run through the movie options. It should look just like it does for me. Movies, personal media. This is what you should see. Personal media on top, local media assets below. Plex Movie Legacy, it should be in this order. Local media assets, Plex Movie Legacy, Fan Art TV, Sign Material. The movie database, local media assets on top, the movie database, Fan Art TV, Plex Movie Legacy. Again, if you've adjusted these, make them match what my settings are. Just in case, we'll run through the shows option. Just pause the screen, take a look, make yours match. Artist, albums, photos. So again, no one should ever change these settings. So let's go back and review the library settings one more time. 3 dots, Manage Library, Edit, Advanced. You have to be running Plex Movie for the scanner and Plex Movie for the agent. You must not check Prefer Local Metadata. And that's about it. And the last thing, Joseph, I really need to know what version of Plex you're running. This is the web app version. We need to go into General. This is the server version. 1.40.1.8227 is the latest version of Plex, which you should be running also. So that's a start to finish. That's how to have the right library settings. That's how to fix your agent settings if they've been fooled around with. And again, this scanned in fine. I would have to go create a poster for this documentary. The same with this. I might steal this. I might just do this. I might just download this and open it up in GIMP and then edit in the title. Looks like a nice black title down here would work fine. Or in white up here would work fine. And then you would edit, poster, and you'd add your own image. I've created tons of posters when I've needed to. Usually for a custom collection, but occasionally you need to do it for a movie like this. And you could literally just take a black background. You would do 600 by 900 for the pixel depth, and simply just having white text, this right here. You don't need anything fancy for a poster. So I hope this is helpful, and I really need to see more of what's going on. Show me everything I just showed you, because someplace there's a disconnect. Someplace you have a setting that's different from mine, or you're running too old of a version of Plex, or the library is set to look at local metadata. And again, MKV Toolnix, if you're scanning, well, that was the wrong program. I have to be in the right area. If I wanted to change this, watch, I can do this. If I wanted to change a bad embedded name, just go to Output, click it here, and click Start Multiplexing. It will happen quickly. It's 100%, so I can close it, and you'll end up with a new copy. Unfortunately, I can't write that copy to my Synology NAS. I'd have to bring it back to a local folder to do it, which I can show here. Let's see, where am I going to put it? Let me bring it in here. Need the name again. And while you're doing it, if you had extra subtitles you wanted to get rid of, you simply uncheck them. Or if you had multiple audio tracks and you wanted to keep one of them, you would uncheck the ones you don't need. And then you can make sure everything is flagged properly. English audio track, English subtitles. A forced subtitle could be flagged. A hearing impaired subtitle could be flagged. And then you simply hit Start Multiplexing at the bottom. And the program will zip that back up with a new name and whatever changes you've made. So it's only slightly larger, and that's because we put the movie name into the container. So these are identical. One just has some embedded metadata now. Some people do that with all their media, and Plex scans for the embedded metadata. But I've showed you how not to check that option, and that would be a choice you'd have to make when you're setting the library up to even do that in the first place. So Joseph, take a lot of screenshots to match mine if something's different. But I definitely want to see, and you can do it from any client app, I definitely want to see how it looks if it does scan in. So I have to go to more. This is a new library. Well, actually, it's not going to see it until I log out and come back in. There we are. I like to see it from this perspective. Both this one and this one, a screenshot of each, and then click into it to see if you've got this metadata here. Missing pictures here is not an issue. They simply don't exist in the source databases. Just like these pictures don't exist. But if you see this much and you see this description, Plex is scanned it in properly. So not working is one thing. Explain exactly how it doesn't work. You are so close, I imagine, to getting all this. Something just hasn't clicked. So anyway, happy Plexing and take care.